conversations are geared towards women simply because we are women. Let's talk about self-love, emotions, and well-being. Let's talk about successes, failures, and life lessons that force us to grow and learn so that we can empower each other. Welcome to another episode of Mahogany and Willow. Today is a very exciting day for Jeanette and I. Hi, Jeanette, by the way.
Hello.
Since the beginning days of Mahogany and Willow, our goal was to eventually have special guests on the show. Those guests were going to be women that have done some pretty amazing things with their lives, and their stories would inspire others in the process. They might be business owners, survivors, community and organization leaders, keepers of our local history, mental health and wellness professionals, life coaches, teachers, farmers, ranchers, and so on. We want to give those women a platform to tell their stories of how they beat the odds and persevered through adversity to get to where they are today. We want to share their stories with our listeners so that they might empower others to step out on faith, to start on their path towards healing, or to encourage them to make their personal dreams come true. Today we have an amazing woman who's a leader in her community in a whole other arena. To some, her industry may not be categorized in the health and wellness field because she caters to outdoor enthusiasts, but for others, the great outdoors is our health and wellness therapy. Not only is she a local gal, she's a mother, a grandmother, a fiance, a sister, a daughter, a friend to many, and a pioneer in the outdoor hunting and fishing industry that is mostly dominated by men. I'm talking about the owner-manager of our beloved longtime outdoor sporting goods store, The Outdoorsman. Here's the ever-amazing Julie Koda Clark.
Thank you so much for having me on this. I'm truly, truly grateful.
Well,
I'm thankful.
Good. We love having you, and Jeanette and I are very, very grateful as well. So tell us about you.
I was born in Ontario at the Holy Rosary Hospital. I was raised in Vail, Oregon. My dad was a farmer and owned a farm in Vail. He grew onions, sugar beets, and corn. He was in an internment camp in Minidoka when he was young. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my childhood that I believe has made me part of who I am today. I was born in Holy Rosary Hospital July 20th. When my dad was taking me and my family and my mom home from the hospital, he hit a train at the Cairo Railroad tracks. And my mom was killed, and my siblings, dad, and all had some sort of injuries. He told me my mom threw me under the seat, and I was uninjured, and he then had 5 kids to raise on his own. My family goes from my oldest sibling, my brother, is 13 years older than me. My sister is 10 years older than me. My next sister is 9 years older than me. And my other brother is 3 years older than me. And, of course, I am the youngest. He did an incredible job raising us all, and we loved him very, very much. He was the best grandfather, father, mom that my sisters, brothers, and grandkids could ever have. I was raised by my dad and my siblings. I did have nannies when I was little, but mainly he took me on the tractors, and I just rode on the tractors. Some people told me I was tied with a rope to the pickup while I played in the dirt with my dolls. He was just, that's all we did was work hard and farmed.
What I love about what you just said is how your dad stepped in, because he obviously came from a very interesting background, and to step in and be such an amazing father and mentor to you children, it says so much about him, and it reflects in your character as well.
Yes, he was born in Seattle, Washington. But his parents, when the war broke out, him and his brother had to stay in Washington, and his parents and the rest of his siblings had to go back to Japan. So him and his brother had lived with some friends and some other family while they grew up.
Wow. So his parents had to go back to Japan.
Because they weren't.
Right. So have you ever met your grandparents?
We never went back to Japan. And my dad never went back to Japan.
And how old was he when this happened? When they were sent back?
He was pretty young. He was a boy.
Wow. That's a lot to absorb.
So they must have been, he and his brother must have been born here?
Yes, they were born here.
So they were considered citizens, essentially.
Correct.
Wow.
So you are a farm girl, essentially. Grew
Definitely.
up on a farm, yes. So Was that something that you wanted to do in your adult life? You decide, hey, I grew up farming, I know farming, this is my family thing, or I want to get away from that? Because some kids might rebel and the others might want to do it.
In a Japanese culture, it is usually not the women that take over the farm. It's usually the firstborn son or the boys.
Okay.
And so even though my dad was very U.S. citizen, very Americanized, a lot of things still carried on. So it was really my brother's farm.
Okay.
And none of his girls were to carry on that legacy.
Okay. Are they still farming today?
No, they aren't right now. My brother is older, of course. And so, no, they've sold the farm and they lease the land.
Okay. Wow. So, growing up in this area, you are from Vail originally.
Yes.
Okay. So, growing up in this area, were you an outdoor gal, which led to what you do today? Were you hunted, fished? I mean, what was it that led you to where you are today?
I did. I was always an outdoor person, of course, living on a farm. When you live out in the country and you're just a kid, all you really have to do is play with dolls in the dirt and tractors and shoot BB guns and start siphon tubes, drive the tractor. When I was young, I caught gophers. I only got paid $0.25 for them, and now I hear it's like $5. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Maybe I'll go back to trapping.
Yes. And cut off their tails and did things like that. Picked asparagus along the ditch banks, went ice skating on the ponds. I mean, and usually I was a lot by myself with my brother because my older siblings were almost already out of the house. I mean, we had a great life. We water skied at Bully Creek. We fished. My dad took us crappie fishing all the time. So I'm pretty much used to the outdoors.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like a fun childhood, really, that most kids nowadays wouldn't really know much about. So did you go to college after high school or take business? What led you kind of down that path to business?
Well, I don't know if I was really led. I went to college for a little bit, and then I heard there was an opening at the Outdoorsman. So, of course, having to get a job, I applied, and plus I had a young child to raise. And so I applied at the college and was hired by Miriam Jones, and I started out in their bookkeeping part. And so she really taught me all the ins and outs of bookkeeping. And then I just started doing their order entry, and then I started stocking, and I just learned basically every aspect of the store.
Doing those duties, how long were you doing that until you started to move out, like towards management? I'm assuming you moved into management at some point?
Yes, so as you know, the Outdoorsman has been around for probably 80 years or more from the beginning.
Yeah.
So, and it's gone through a lot of hard times. And so at the time when I was hired, I would say worked there for maybe 3 to 5 years. And then they had some falling out. And then one of the owners decided they were going to close the store. So then he decided he was going to start it again under a new name, but still a part of the Outdoorsman. And so I then thought I was going to get laid off, but he saw that I did almost everything in the store. So he kept me on and asked me if I would continue working for him while we opened up the new Outdoorsman. And so I did, and then it just became more and more, and I helped start it. I helped do everything. I just started doing more and more of the business, even though he was still the owner. And then probably did that for maybe 5 more years or so. And then he had some other owners that were just silent partners that helped him fund the store. Well, they had a falling out, and they could already see that I was managing the store pretty much on my own. So then they let him go, and they offered me to stay on. And during that time, they had a lot of financial debt that I had to work hard late nights. I did everything. I did all the books. I did all the ordering. I stocked the store. I maybe had 2 employees. I kind of got thrown into it. They just said, here, took me to the bank. Your name's on the checkings account. I already had keys to the store. Their names weren't even on the checkings account. They had no keys to the store. They just said, we already know that you can do this. Here you are.
Wow.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah.
It is amazing. That's impressive. Again, that says a lot about you. They trusted you 100% completely. Wow. And
did you feel confident about what they were handing you at that time, or what was there a little bit of a, oh, I have to grow into this quickly kind of?
I guess it came through a lot of hard work of just knowing how to work hard, learning it from my family and my dad. I think that I just didn't know any better. I just did it. There's some things that you just do. I spent a lot of nights till opening till 11 at night at that store, because when you have to do the books too and everything else, you just do what you need to do.
Right.
How hard was it? You said you had your son at the time.
Mm-hmm.
How hard was that for you to balance all of that?
Well, it was very hard, and there's things that I regret because I feel like I should have put more time into my family and my son. But, so this is a funny story. Well, not funny, but my dad worked so hard the whole time I was growing up. He hardly had time. He was the greatest dad ever. He gave me everything I ever wanted. I was in cheerleading. I did this. He always had money to fund it. I had a car to drive. But when I got older, then he had grandkids, he was able to slow down. And he took care of my son and his other grandchildren and did everything for me. Oh. He would drive from Vail, picked him up from school. He would take them every weekend. He had them all summer long on the farm. He would take them to the doctor's office and everything for me. Wow. So my dad did everything really for me with my son that made it to where I was able to do these things.
That's beautiful.
And I asked him one day, I said, you never did all those things with me. And he said, because I had to work so hard to get to where I am now. And now I don't have to, so I could repay it all back with my grandkids.
Wow.
That's beautiful, yeah.
That really is.
And the thing is, I mean, I know how close my sons are to their grandfather. That gave them the opportunity to have that relationship. Whereas, I mean, I know I would have been in the way of that in the similar circumstances. Yeah, I think that opened up the space for them to have a beautiful relationship with him, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. The memories now, my son now is sorry that his son doesn't have that opportunity to live on a farm and learn all those things about catching tadpoles, snakes, setting siphon tubes, burning the ditches, cleaning the ditches, riding four-wheelers, and all those kind of things out in the country.
Right.
Wow. I love that about your dad. I think a grandparent, like for me, my grandparents, and I speak of on my dad's side, were huge in my family. And I think, honestly, I think about them every day. And it's been 20 plus years since they've been gone. And I still think about them to this day, like every single day. And it's such a beautiful relationship. And what a blessing it was, not only for your
Definitely.
dad, but for the kids to be the recipient of the fact that he worked. Yes, he worked so hard. And yes, it would have been nice if he was there more. But then the payoff for you and your son later with his presence and his availability and his unconditional love that's priceless.
It is.
Wow. That makes me miss grandparents. So who inspired you and supported you the most? And we probably just answered that, honestly, when you're talking about your dad. But if there's anybody else besides your dad that also supported you and helped you through the times when you were from opening until closing and building this so-called, future empire, if you want to call it that.
I would have to say a big person in my life was also my aunt, and that was my mom's sister. So I did stay with my aunt a lot, and my cousins and I are very, very close. She's is the only family I have here. And my aunt is one of the hardest working women ever also. She worked at the Holy Rosary Hospital for, 40 to 50 years.
Wow.
She was the longest hospital employee.
Wow.
When she retired.
Wow.
And so she probably wouldn't have been retired, but they said, you have to start drawing some money. And so she retired, but she then, even after that, was volunteering until COVID hit.
Oh, that's a long, beautiful career.
She is 94 or 95 right now.
Oh, wow.
And still smart as ever.
Nice.
And she's here.
Yes.
She is here.
She
Okay.
lives here in Ontario.
Oh, that's nice. So being still at the Outdoorsman, running things, what was the next, I guess, big thing when they hand you the keys? They say, here, this is basically yours. Your name's not on the door or the big sign, but this is basically yours, Julie. Now, what happens in the meantime to where it ends up being that you purchased the place?
Well, working hard, and then we moved locations a couple of times from when this whole beginning started. We were next to the old Outdoorsman underneath the fat but beautiful water tower. And then we moved it across from Les Schwab, which was a very small, kind of rundown building. And then eventually, probably, I guess, maybe 17 or more years, we were able to get the location, of which some people don't remember because it was so long ago, the old Sukimakis.
Something like that.
It was a Japanese grocery store.
Oh, right. I do remember that now. Okay.
And it was kind of parted out. And so we were able to grab that location, and we moved into there, remodeled it, and that's where we have been since. And I've been very happy there. It's a lot bigger location for us. We have an indoor range. And when we moved in there, we really didn't have a computer system. And I had told the other two owners, which were very, very good to me, giving me the opportunity to be able to do this when they handed me the keys and had enough confidence in me to be able to pay off their debts and keep everything going. I said, I want to get a loan because we're going to get a POS system. I said, it's mandatory. We have to. And one owner was a fairly older guy. He was very knowledgeable in retail, and he was not computerized, and he was against it. I said, no, we have to. It's a must. So I got a loan from the city of Ontario, and we got the POS system and remodeled the store and did other things, and then we just kind of moved forward from there.
So when did you end up actually purchasing it?
I guess it's... Hold on. So in the beginning, they gave me a few shares to keep me going. And then I just accumulated more and more shares every year by profits. And then there was actually 3 owners, and they were so good to me. His dad was getting older, and the one owner, Morris Griggs, said to me, you need to buy out my dad's shares. And so I did. So I got those paid off. And then Boyd passed away, one of the other owners. And then they went to Morris, which was his nephew. And then after we moved into the new building that I am located at now, Boyd passed away. And then there was just Morris and I. And then probably 17 years ago, Morris said, I know nothing about that store. I don't have a key to it. I know nothing about sporting goods. He would barely come there but once a year. And so he goes, it's time for you to buy out the rest of my shares because we're not getting any younger. And I feel like if something happened to you, I would not know what to do.
You made yourself so valuable. He's a smart guy, really.
Yeah, definitely.
So then I went forward and I got a bank loan and I finished paying off the store.
Awesome.
And now the store is free and cleared and has been for a few years.
Wow. And I mean, how many business owners can you say
Right.
that have that same situation where they're free and clear? I mean, not very many. So that's beautiful. Good for you.
Thank you.
That's a huge weight off your shoulders, for sure.
Yes.
So being in that industry, the outdoor industry, is that what you call it? Is just the sporting goods or outdoor industry? What do you actually call that?
I would say I call it the sporting goods, but it really is an outdoor industry.
Yeah, because you cater, you have archery, you have
Yes.
guns, you have fishing, you have camping, you have
Yes.
camo, you have outdoor gear. Am I missing anything?
Clothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of clothing,
Yeah.
shoes.
They got boots.
And we try to cater to not just hunting and fishing, but just outdoor enthusiasts,
Mm-hmm.
people who want to go hiking, people who just love the outdoors, people who want to bird watch, people who just love being outdoors.
Yeah. So in bird watching, can't forget the optics.
Yes.
You probably sell optics there
Yes.
as well. Yeah. Well, it's quite a niche because, back when I was a kid, we always went to the outdoorsman and they carried all kinds of stuff, the ski clothing. I remember buying ski jackets and
Yes, we had boats, we had skis, we had everything you could think of.
Yeah. And I think it's super smart to kind of come down to that, more narrow focus without all that extra, inventory and all the extra space it takes to
Right.
house all that stuff and the extra manpower and the extra flooring for the finances and all that. So I think you have a really great combination of things in there, and I've bought some things there. My Canatrex, by the way, Canatrex are the bomb. Anybody that needs good footwear for feet that are an issue like mine, the Canatrex are the best thing I've bought for myself. So I love that. But having those options here is so important because, back in the day when we were growing up, anytime you wanted to go shopping for anything, unless it was a niche like the outdoor gear or supplies, you'd go to Nampa or Boise. And so it's so nice to have such a nice store with so many options here for everybody in this community. It's beautiful. And so we thank you for still being here
Thank
and
you
doing it so
for
well.
supporting us.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's so important that we do support our small businesses. So being a woman in that male-dominated industry, tell us about that, because you've made a name for yourself being, basically their right hand for years and years. Well, now this is your baby. Have you been met with resistance? I mean, there's so much that goes into just having a store. You've got to go to these shows and travel, and tell us about how that's been as a woman in this male-dominated industry.
I think that I have always lived in a male world. I was raised by only my dad. I never had a mom.
Right.
So for me, I think I didn't feel that as much because I never had that mom nurturing me all the time. I had to survive at home by myself, with my dad and my brother mainly. I do feel like it is very male dominated. I feel like I have earned respect from a lot of the males in this area. I feel like they have known me long enough that it is respect and know that I can do it. There's been many times when sales reps or something would come into the store and they would ask for the owner of the store. Well, my employees would go into the office and then come and get me, and they would look at me and have this puzzled look on their face. And then one even started laughing. And I said, "What is so funny?" And he says, "You're not what I expected to walk out of that office store."
Right. Yep.
But he soon changed, because if he wanted to order, he was going to have to deal with me.
Exactly. But then after they experience working
Right.
with you, then they're like, oh, she knows what she's doing. She's got this in the bag. What was I thinking? I'm a jerk. But it'd be easy to do in a male-dominated
Yes.
industry.
And, that happens a lot with customers, too. That do not know me or know the store. you might have a lot of men, which we do have a lot of men come into the store and they're like, well, I want to speak to a man. And I'd say, well, I'm the only one here, so how can I help you today? And he'd say, well, I want a scope. And I'm like, okay, I would name off all these things. What do you want? Do you want a 4-12, a 3x9? Do you want, what kind of optics do you want? Do you want a 50 millimeter? Do you want a 40 millimeter? What are you hunting? Are you going long range? And then they just look at me like, okay, well, I guess you can help me.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that happens a lot. And it still happens to my younger girls. But I think nowadays things are changing. But I always say, just make them happy. As long as you're selling them something, they want to talk to a guy. The guy will come back and ask me. My salesman will come and ask me for advice, and then I would tell him and let him tell him.
Right. Gosh, playing the game. Isn't that funny? Speaking of having, young gals that work for you, and I've been in there many times, and they're always great. And it seems as the industry has changed over the many years, the outdoor industry especially, you see women are, I grew up hunting and fishing, so it's never been something that I got into later in life. I just always did. But it seems like there are more and more women that are getting into hunting, fishing, and in competitive, even in shooting, competitive shooting, all these things, which is great. It's really great. So over the years, what have you seen? As far as shifts, you go from where it seemed like back in the day, it was mostly the men that were out doing all this stuff and getting what they needed, especially guns and stuff. What have you seen kind of shift over time as to where we are now with the women coming in as your customers?
I think women are getting to be more self-efficient. Women are learning that they can control their own life. I feel like women want to learn how to shoot a gun. They want to learn how to protect themselves. They know what this society, this world, kind of sometimes has become where they need to have self-protection, but they want to learn and they want to be safe. I feel like women are very highly skilled nowadays. They are very motivated. And I think once they put their mind to it, they're actually more motivated and learning and succeeding on what they want more than men. They know they have to overcome more, especially in those fields.
Do you see yourself as a leader or mentor to other women?
I feel like at one point in my life, I really didn't. But I feel like now, I feel like everything that I've gone through and the older that I am, I feel like I want to be a better person. I want to help women. A thing in my heart, if I see somebody down, I want to make them happy. I want to do something kind for them. I want them to know they're not the only ones who have gone through something hard.
Yeah, that's beautiful, actually.
Definitely.
Yeah, and the idea of giving back, you've had some beautiful blessings in your life, but it came through with some pretty, deep tragedy just at the very beginning of your life, and to bring you to where you are today. And as we spoke earlier before we were recording about the age that we're at and how we, the pain that you experience, it brings the most powerful growth. And you going through your personal struggles through life, but then coming to a point that you've gone so many years doing such a beautiful thing. Building this, I call it an empire because I think it is to a point. It's a beautiful empire. And you're at such a happy, point in your life right now. You've got a great fiance and
yes.
wonderful friends, a huge network of people that support you.
Yes.
It doesn't get much better than that. And
No,
a son and a grandson. And
yes. And I do have a stepdaughter and grandkids, and they are so loving and so good to me also. It's just unbelievable. The community, when I was going through a hard time, when I was depressed and sad, how my employees, the community was there, my family was there to back me. And there was days when I felt like I couldn't go to work.
oh,
But my employees ensured me they would take care of everything. And they did. They worked harder than they ever could to make sure everything was still good at the store. My family was there to support me, and the community was so worried. It just made me realize how good life really can be. No matter how dark or bad you think it's going to be, and no matter, everybody's tragedy is something different. Nobody's is worse than somebody else's. It's how they feel. And so I feel like knowing how much my friends, family, community, everybody has helped me, I love that. I'm so grateful and so blessed, and I feel more.
We have done a lot of conversational pieces through it, within our podcast, along with the actual podcast on gratitude. And I feel that just the vibe coming off of you is just a person that just expresses gratitude all the time. And gratitude, it just gives back when you're constantly putting that vibe out, and then you get that positivity back, and then you keep giving out, and then you want to share with other people. It's a beautiful gift. And
I think that's one of the reasons that made myself come here today, because I'm not this type of person that would do these things, but I'm thankful. And if I could make somebody else's day and make them realize to take the time and to love themselves, that they could be happy through all that, good times will happen.
Exactly. And being able to help other women. And that's our goal, is to really empower other women by not only, the things we talk about or our stories in general, but bringing other people in as well that have an amazing story like yourself, that have been through so much, but have given back so much as well. And that's the beauty of growth, personal growth in general, is being able to give back. And it's like this perpetual motion.
So, Julie, you just spoke about having a situation in your life, or a time in your life, where you kind of had to withdraw and kind of refocus your attention. And you spoke about the support being of such help to you. Were there other things that you found within yourself to kind of rebalance you and reground for that time in your life?
Yes, I went through a very depressed time in my life. My employees and my family and friends all were there to support me. And then one day when things got super hard, I don't really know how it came. I think it was just from the support of my friends and family, everybody from the community to people that just knew me from working for me, from going to the shows. Everybody said, "You are the strongest person I know." And I never felt like that. And then one day, I think that just with the support and my friends and my family getting me to go out there and go do things, and learning to do things on my own, going out to dinner by myself, going places, doing things that I would never normally do, just finally made me realize, you know what? I'm going to travel this year. And I went to trips. I went and traveled on my own, and I saw things. I had fun. I met new people, things that I never did my whole entire life besides worked and just family and just worked. And it just kind of opened my eyes and made me realize I can do these things. I can be happy. I learned how to be happy with myself and learned how to do things on my own. And I think that once you find that happiness in yourself, that it made me realize I could do this with other people. I hate to see people sad because I know what it feels like.
Right.
So if I could lend them a kind word, I'm going to, because people did that for me. So I just am very grateful for all the support and all the kind words. And I do feel like I am a strong person now.
The fact that you dove deep and you found yourself and you found your happiness, and with that you want to give back is a beautiful thing. And it can only add to the person that you are, being that leader, and mentor in business, but also as a woman. Good
and,
you.
I feel like I was strong in my work,
right?
Because that's what I did, right. And I knew it, but I wasn't strong in myself.
Right. As another woman, very proud of the fact that you overcame all of that. And thank God for the support of your amazing support system that you obviously have in place. And I'm sure that support system grew as you grew as a person. That support system kind of grew and blossomed because you're an example to the other women in your life. And then they glean off that. Because I know you have friends that have been through a lot personally as well.
Yes,
and
definitely.
And you as that support for them had to have been huge.
Yes. I would never, ever let them go through anything on their own. I would always be there for them through my employees, through my family, through my friends, just people I don't know. I would always, and I tell my employees, we're like family, that we'll always be there for each other.
That's beautiful. And then when they entertain the idea of moving on to something else, I'm sure leaving you is the hardest part of the whole thing.
They say, but I don't know. Maybe they're just being nice.
Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt because, you make that connection. You're not going to have that. These people aren't going to have that at the next job. They're going to be more than likely an employee, period. Not that loving friend connection,
Yes. And I want the workplace nowadays to be like that. I don't want to be somebody who doesn't care about what they do, because it really comes into effect on what they're doing with the public, how they're selling, how they're acting to the customers.
Right.
If they hate their job, they're not going to be nice or want to do their job.
Yep.
And I see that when I go into other workplaces and the employee's like, I hate this place. And you're like thinking, okay, I'm sorry. But what does that tell you about the place?
Absolutely. Right. You've created a wonderful environment, not only as, for the customers, but then for your employees as well. That's just something that doesn't happen. So again, I'm giving you all the love and the kudos I can possibly, Julie, because I love what you've created. And I hope at the end of the day you look yourself in the mirror and go, I am proud,
Some days and some days not. But I think we all have those days.
Oh, yeah.
But we just have to remember. And I've learned to laugh a lot more and be happy.
Yes.
Nice.
And a lot of that has been the guy that I'm with now.
Yes.
So, and my friends and family. So life is good.
No, that's beautiful. We're still talking with the amazing Julie Koda Clark. What do you predict as far as changes in the future for the outdoorsman?
Well, everything is going towards internet and services like that. It costs so much money and so much personnel to do an online store, and it is very hard. I don't know as if I will ever go straight into that. I do feel like I need to get a more presence on the internet and do more things that way to bring customers more into me. I mean, we have a great community from Council to Baker to Burns to, every place, Nampa. I just need more people to learn who we are and what we are about and that we're worth the drive to come to the store.
So, Julie, from when you were young to now and the trajectory that your life has taken, did you notice some of those things along the way, or did life move you and you just created success out of it?
I felt like life just moved me, and I did what I knew and what I had to do. I didn't decide owning a sporting goods store. I needed a job to support my son, and I did my job well, and I made every effort to do the best that I could at what I was doing and to succeed. And then it just led on to more and more, and I just kept working hard at what I did because it's what needed to be done.
I love that. So the opportunity was there and the work ethic was so underneath it. You just built the success out of it. I think that's fantastic.
So do you see yourself stepping back in your role in the near future? You know, like a little more time for you?
I certainly hope so.
Without divulging it to everybody going, what? Wait.
No, but especially with the new relationships and new life opportunities, I'm sure it would kind of be lovely to have some personal time too.
So I have a young man, Jeremiah Hartman, who's been with me for probably 20 years now. He started when he was 18.
Wow.
And he's still working for me. And customers love him. He's good at what he does. He's so knowledgeable. He does everything that I have ever asked him to do. I'm getting him to learn the books because I feel like when you own something and you're working hard at it, you can't just know a little bit of it.
Right.
You got to know makes that, how much money you can spend, budgeting, planning, staffing, timing, what's selling, what's not, which that's always a game. But people love him. And so hopefully I'm going to do the same for him that the owners did for me. Mm. And I can step back a ways. He will run it. He will get some ownership. Hopefully, I will always probably have to be in there at some point just because I need to have a living and money to live, unfortunately. But that way, more of the burdens and the hardships he can take on.
Nice. And the day-to-day maneuverings of it, which then you can give yourself a break. Nice.
That's beautiful, though. I like the idea of what you said about giving back essentially what, the previous owners had given you, that opportunity and all the knowledge and stuff. That's really very cool. So what advice would you give to your younger self if you could go back?
I thought about that long and hard when I read that question. I guess to not lose focus on yourself. Working hard is a good thing. Making a living is a good thing. And trying to do all the things that are right, but don't lose focus on loving yourself. Because it won't seem as good.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Last question, and it's a good one. What is the best advice anyone has ever given you?
I had to think long and hard on that one, too. I've had lots of advice. People tell me a lot of times, which is true, it's your business. You need to run it how you know, how you feel. Don't let anybody tell you something different. If you think that that's not right, you need to believe in it. There's another advice that somebody told me that I didn't understand about life or people until he told me. It's kind of when I was going through my hard time. He said, I just didn't understand how people could be so disrespectful and hurtful. And I was so sad. And he said to me, you don't understand because you're not like them.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
He said, so be happy that you don't understand how somebody can be like that, hurtful and disrespectful, because you're not like that. And I learned.
Well, Julie, Jeanette and I are so grateful that you chose to take time out of your busy schedule and hang out with us and get so open and honest with us. It really means a lot. And we really hope that there's somebody out there today that was moved by your words and your encouragement and your support of women everywhere. And that's what we really want to be for people. And we just can't thank you enough.
I do want to say that I am so thankful and honored that you guys have chose me. I really don't think of myself as being anything special or anything like that. And so that's very kind of you guys.
You have a very inspiring story. Believe it.
Yes.
It's true.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Mahogany and Willow.
Because there's always something important to talk about.